Just joining us, welcome again to our webinar. Today we're really excited to be walking you through some of the most unique and powerful features about Airtable called views. My name is Becky and I'm a Customer Success Manager here at Airtable. Also hosting this webinar with me is my colleague Jacob on our product side. And just a few housekeeping items before we get started. If you have any questions, please actually use the questions tab to the right of our screen share. This will allow you to see other questions that other folks are asking, as well as give you the ability to upvote certain questions that you'd like to ask as well. And of course, you can also enter in your new questions that aren't already being asked. And if you would like a recording of this webinar, the replay will be available on our Airtable Livestream page, and the URL is present on our slide here. So to get started, let's take a look at today's agenda. For those of you who are new to Airtable, we'll walk through what Airtable is. Next, we'll explain what views are and how your team can benefit from using them. Next, we'll cover how to choose between a view or a table, which is a common question that beginners will ask. And next, we'll also talk about customizing, adding, and sharing out views to external users. Last but not least, we'll also cover some of the additional resources around views, as well as just Airtable in general. So first, what is Airtable? Airtable might look like a spreadsheet, but it's actually a very powerful, flexible, and collaborative database that you can customize completely to your workflow. Spreadsheets were built for accounting, whereas databases are actually meant for organization in the sense that they can actually show relationships between in your workflow. For example, let's say that you are managing a sales pipeline. You can use a database to manage the relationships between the contacts, the companies, and the interactions. Or let's say you manage a marketing calendar. You can actually use a database to manage the relationships between your campaigns, assets, and channels. And the same goes for essentially any other workflow that exists out there. So Airtable offers a very user-friendly database, which we affectionately call a base, that you can customize completely to your own idea, project, or workflow. We offer these features like views, which we'll talk about today, as well as fields and ability to create relationships between your tables that you can mix and match to create your own tool. Essentially, we give you the building blocks to organize and manage and create your way. You can also take it to the next step and actually action on your information that exists in your base with blocks. Blocks is a platform that allows you to extend your information through reports, analyses that you can generate immediately through the information that lives in your base. So for today, when we talk about views, let's actually use a sample team and base to actually walk through the functionality. So let's say that we are on the marketing team at Table Air. And let's say Table Air is a company that's launching a new self-assembling table in February. As a marketing team at Table Air, we want to be able to manage all of the marketing projects related to the launch. Whether it's an event, whether it's swag, whether it's designs or emails, we want to make sure that we see all of the moving pieces and capture all the different processes in Airtable. So what is a view? In a traditional spreadsheet, every user would actually see the contents of your sheet in the exact same way. So for example, if you want to hide, freeze, or filter your columns, your teammates will also see all of those changes. In Airtable, however, you don't need to worry about someone making changes to your views because you can all create your very own custom views. So you can all see what you want and when you want while working within the same single source of truth. So views essentially are just different ways of looking at the same information. To customize your views, you can add filters, groups, and sorts to really surface what you personally need at any given time, allowing you to focus on what you need and when you need it. Changes in one view are automatically reflected in other views because views are just windows into the same types of information, but that allows your team to ensure that nothing slips through the cracks so that there's always a single source of truth for you and your team. So in terms of what this looks like in Airtable, let me just quickly show you and jump into our base here for Table Air. We have all of our projects listed here. Let's say we have 4 before our big launch. We can easily look at a new view called Active Projects that's currently filtered for just the projects that are in progress. So we're filtering out the ones that are complete and just taking a look at the ones that are in progress. So this ability allows us to have different ways of looking at the same underlying information, including changes. So let's say that the one that's in progress, design invitations, let's say that the due date is actually going to be pushed back to the 31st. So now when we look at design invitations over in our active projects view that's currently filtering for where projects are in progress, you'll see that design invitations due date has now also been changed to the 31st, allowing you and your teammates to work out of different views but ensure that this information is still the same. And so that's the power of views. It allows your team to work independently within the same single source of truth. And while in a traditional spreadsheet, every user would see information in the exact same way, in Airtable, views allow team members to work independently within the same hub. So I'll continue using the table area example to walk you through some of the other options that we have with views. So first, we'll actually cover when you would choose a view over a brand new table. Next, we'll talk about how you can customize views, add views, as well as share views out. So first, when do you choose a view over a table? In order to understand the answer for this question, we'll actually have to dive into what a table is meant for. So a table is very different from what you might see in a traditional spreadsheet program. A table is different from a tab because a tab is a blank canvas that allows you to enter anything. For us in Airtable, a table is actually a list containing a specific type of information. Back to the sales example earlier that we were talking about in terms of the relationships that databases can show, you'll notice that tables for this Airtable base includes interactions, contacts, and companies. Whereas for our marketing content calendar, each table holds something different as well. In this case, it holds campaigns, assets, and channels. So essentially, a table holds the nouns of your process that require additional details. So in terms of when you would use a view versus a table, you would add a view when you need to surface information about a subset of information. Or rather, you would surface a subset of information. A table allows you to add additional information and their related details. So whenever, let's say, you need to find information about a project, so the one that we showed earlier, which ones are active, we would actually just use a view. We would not add a new table dedicated to active projects because we already have that information and we just need to use a view to surface that. On the other hand, when you want to add, let's say, all the vendors related to your projects, you can then add a brand new table to add the details about your vendors and their contact information, as well as which projects they're working on. So please take a look at your base and let us know if you recognize any of these patterns, where you have the same type of information, let's say projects, across different tables. They should actually not be living across different tables because that would require you to actually add your projects in multiple places. But actually, they should live in one table, and you should use multiple views to surface what you need to see. So how do I actually customize a view? In order to answer this, we'll actually need to take a look at what it means to just be looking at a view. So you're always looking at your records through a view. And again, to recap, a record is your project and the related details, whereas fields are the actual details about each project. Now that we recognize that we're always looking at information through a view, you can take a look at the view customization bar and see that you have your ability to hide fields, add filters, add groups, add sorts, as well as color code, as well as adjust row height to actually change what you're seeing within your view. In terms of what this looks like in Airtable, this view customization bar lives up here. And let me jump back out over to our All Projects table so we can really start from a view that currently has no customizations. So, as mentioned, we're always looking at our projects through a view. In this case, our view is called All Projects, but we can customize this view by changing our customization options up here. So, for example, let's say we only want to filter for where we are looking at the projects related to events. We can create a filter that filters for where the purpose is event, and we'll instantly see that the event projects stay in the view, whereas everything else gets filtered out. You can also have the ability to group your projects. So this is great to really kind of get that categorization of which projects fall under which purpose or which projects fall under which status. You can easily and quickly group your status by selecting Group, Status, and you'll see that it groups your records accordingly. So there was a question earlier around how you can actually group your different projects by their work streams. You can actually easily configure one of these fields. So for example, our single select field here, which allows you to predefine your drop-down menu options to the various work streams or the various projects that you'd like to categorize your records by. You can then filter by those work streams as well. Another way to customize your view is, of course, to sort your records. So you can sort depending on whether it's a numeric or a field containing text. You can see whether or not you can sort it by the date or chronologically, or sort it by alphabetically as well. We also offer the ability for you to color code by a single select field. So again, one of those drop-down menu options, and those were color coded already in my field configuration bar. So you can go ahead and click on these bubbles and actually add that color coding here. And that same color coding will be reflected if you decide to color code based on that field. So in this case, we want to color code by status, and you'll notice that the ones that are complete are also green here, and the ones that are in progress or active are yellow over here. You can, of course, choose your own conditions as well. So for example, the ones where the due date is in January, you can easily do that by simply choosing due date is within the next couple of days. See quickly, the ones that are within the next 40 days are now highlighted in blue. Last but not least, you can also have the ability to adjust your row height of your records. So you can go from short, medium, tall, extra tall. And if you have any attachments through your attachment field, you can actually see that the images expand in line as well. And there's one more ability that, one more customization that you can add to your field, which is the ability to hide your fields. So you can simply just toggle your fields that you don't want to see or don't need to reference during your project. Let's say you only need to see the project owner and the status. You can easily just focus and hone in on that information by hiding your fields. This menu over here also allows you to move your fields around so that you can see what's most important to you first. So what I just did was move project owner and status first, and you'll see that same change has been reflected in our base here. But let's say that I want to see my projects that are assigned to me, but my teammate actually wants to see all the projects that are currently in progress. How can I add a view so that we're both working out of our own views and seeing the same information but in our own different ways? You can do so by just adding a view by clicking on the name of your current view, which we've renamed here to All Projects, and expanding what we call the View Switcher. You can then add a view, and we'll talk about the other types here in just a moment, but first we'll focus on adding a grid view. So I can rename this view so that it says Becky's view, or rather it's named Becky's view, and I can add my filter for where Becky is the owner. I can now create a view for my colleague Myra, and let's say that she wants to see all the projects that are in progress regardless of who's currently working on it. I can filter for where the status is in progress, and you'll see that that information is updated here immediately. Let's say that Myra actually helps adjust due dates, and let's go with the design invitations example again, and let's say that she has adjusted the due date so that it actually needs to be pushed back a little earlier, let's say to the 27th. Because this record also exists in my view, where I filtered it for where it's assigned to me, I will see that same change reflected as well. Because again, views are just different ways of looking at the same information. And if there are ever any questions about any of these changes, what you can do is quickly access the revision history of your record by expanding your record. So let's take a look at all the details corresponding to design invitations. I can simply expand my record and see who made those changes. So here in this example, it'll show that I just made that change 10 minutes ago, and I also just made that change just now, which is true. But if you were to share this with other folks, aka other people on your team, you could easily quickly see what changes folks have made. You also have the ability to mention and collaborate directly in the context of your project. So let's say that I'm asking my colleague Myra, actually, so let me just mention myself in this example. Date has been updated. She will now get that notification via email as well as through her mobile app. So this allows you to not just have to update someone over another tool and just say, hey, I updated the invitations. You can actually comment and have them go directly to this project so they can see exactly what has been updated. So in Airtable, you'll notice that we had one view option that says grid. We also have actually 4 other types of views. So the grid is just 1 out of 5 types in total. So let's go ahead and actually explore some of the other ones in just a bit. I actually want to walk through how you can share out views first as well. So in addition to customizing it and adding additional views, you can actually share out views by clicking the share icon over here to your right. You'll then choose the shareable grid view link, which you can then take a look here in this pink space here and copy and paste into your browser. You'll notice that this share link says the name of the view, and it does not show some of the other tables that were present, and it doesn't show the other views that were present either. So this is a way to just share out a specific subset of information to your teammates or to external stakeholders. Any changes made to your base will then automatically be reflected in this share view link. For example, let's say that I want to update my invitations record so that it is complete. I will now be able to simply refresh this link, and the status will now also show complete. So this is a great way of establishing a dashboard that you and external teammates can easily reference and always stay on the same page with. And this is especially great for folks who don't already have access to your base. And by that I mean for folks who don't have collaborator access to your base or your workspace. So for those who don't have access, you can easily and quickly share out information when you need to via the share link and establish that communication. So as mentioned earlier, let's go back to the share link. One more thing that I want to highlight is that in addition, of course, sharing out a link, if you are on a premium plan, you can also restrict access with a password or restrict access with an email domain. You can also embed this view into an internal wiki or internal site so that everyone can easily and quickly stay on the same page through your Airtable base as well. And so now let's take a look at the other view types that we offer. As mentioned earlier, the grid is just 1 of 5. We also offer a calendar view, which allows you to see all those date fields that you had added immediately plotted onto a calendar. You'll remember that in our grid we had the request date, which we can then plot onto a calendar. So plan launch date, design invitations. We can also add an entire date range. So from the request date to the due date is also possible. So you can see the entire duration of the project extended across the dates and spanned across the dates. You can now color code it to make sure you're easily able to visually distinguish which projects fall under which team or which projects fall under which owner. So for example, we can actually color code it based on the status or purpose. So these are all of those drop-down single select options that we had. You can also color code it based on conditions. So for example, where the project owner is Becky, we can highlight that as yellow. For the project owner is, let's say, Myra, we can use, let me add another condition. Another color here. Let's say where the project owner is Myra, we can actually color code that to blue. And now you can quickly and easily see who's working on what and when. We can rename this to say project duration and configure this. We can also share this out as well. So sharing out a calendar would be great just to keep those external stakeholders on the same page with you in terms of what projects are going on, when are they ending, when are they starting, and really helping everyone stay on the same page and be able to expand each date as well to see what else is going on in that day. Another view that we offer is a gallery view, which allows you to display your records as more visual cards that make sure that if there are any visual assets you want to share more prominently, that they appear first. So in my example here, what I've done is include some attachments of invoices, but what you'll see is that you can actually customize which image appears here in this card. You can customize it by clicking Customize Cards. You can choose the attachment field that you want to pull the image from. You can also crop it or ensure that it fits into the card. Let's say, for example, if it's a headshot, you want to make sure that it fits completely so you see who this person is, who this record is all about. You can also choose the amount of information that's appearing on each card. So for example, you can have the status, the purpose. Let's say you also want to see the due date. You can simply toggle that on and quickly and easily see that as well. You can also add a kanban view, which allows you to group your records by a specific status or single select or a specific collaborator. So in this case, let's actually group it by the status so you can actually see where your projects are in your process. So let's say that plan launch party has now been, it's now completed. Jason's ready to move it to complete. He can simply just drag and drop that over to the complete grouping, and this will automatically change the status to complete. So this is great for when you need to sync up with your teammates, just to quickly get a sense of where things are sitting, but also then you can move things along the pipeline through this Kanban view. Last but not least, you can also collect information with a form. So a form is great because it allows you to pre-populate a form with all the fields that were living in your other views. For example, the project name, project owner, it automatically drops all of this down into a form. But let's say that when you create a form, which is great for collecting information from external stakeholders, there are a few things that you need to add internally. For example, let's say the project owner is someone you want to assign after the fact that a project has been submitted or project has been requested. Let's say status is also something that you set internally. You can easily just drag those over to the left-hand side and they will be removed from the external-facing form. Let's say the due date is also internal and tasks are also internal. You're now ready to share this out once you also add a logo and a cover image to brand it. And then you can also rename this to, let's say, Table Air Marketing Requests. Where then, as soon as you add these descriptions or even descriptions for each field and change whether or not they're required, you'll be ready to share this out with your external stakeholders. Click on Share Form, take this link and share it out, and you'll notice that this external facing form only includes those fields that you had included in that form builder. Let's say we are adding a new project. Let's go with project A, and let's say the purpose for this is for an event. We can now say the request date was today, and let's say we don't have any attachments just yet. We can now click Submit. We can now see that project submissions directly feed it into our other views. And let's take a look at that. So we can go to our All Projects, and we'll automatically see that Project A has been added as a brand new record with the fields that we had asked our external stakeholders to fill out. Now I can go ahead and, as part of the internal marketing team, clarify whether or not we've decided to approve this project by clicking In Progress and assigning someone to it. And now by changing the status and by changing the owner, I'll now see this record has been filtered into some of the views where that was a criteria. For example, the projects that are in progress are now currently in active projects. We can see Project A. And in Becky's view, the ones that I've been assigned to, and again to recap, this is the filter, you'll see that Project A has also now been added directly into my view. So this allows everyone to just stay on the same page with even new requests that come in, as long as it fulfills the criteria of that view. So that's our 5 views that we offer here, which allows every single team member to work in the way that they want, and allows every single team to really stay on the same page despite having the option for everyone to work independently of each other in their views. I also wanted to highlight that for the premium plans, so our Pro, our Enterprise plans, you can actually configure each view so that it's personal. So let's take a look at this icon here with the 3 collaborators. If you hover over it, it'll show that this view is visible and configurable by collaborators. But if I click on that and click on Personal View, you'll notice that it will read that only you can edit the view configuration. And so what this is referring to is the customizations that we've set here. So let's say that I don't want to have someone adjust my filter. In this view, I really only want to focus on where the ones I've been assigned to. I can ensure that no one will be able to adjust this filter by configuring it to a personal view. With a premium plan, I can also ensure that my view is locked, which means that no one can edit the view configuration unless someone has the password and unlocks it. And just to recap, the records themselves can still update, but the way that you're looking at it, the way that you're customizing your view, that will not be able to be adjusted by anyone besides you if you configured it to a personal view. So that's it for today's webinar in terms of kind of a high-level overview of the views that are available, how you can add them, how you can customize them, and just a general overview of how they can really help your team collaborate simultaneously within the same base, within the same hub, but in your own different ways. And if you have any questions, we'd love to hear them. We'd love to help you with them. And you can feel free to reach out to us at support@airtable.com or access our support center, support.airtable.com. And please stay tuned for more webinars in 2019. We're really excited to have more webinar series coming out soon. So hope to see you here. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll leave the webinar on for a little bit so that Jacob can continue answering any questions that you all might have. So feel free to go towards the questions tab and continue asking those questions there. Thank you so much.